Thank you, Mr. Chairman. President Nygren, how does it make you feel when you hear members in this chamber recognize the sovereignty of the Navajo Nation when it's only when it's convenient? How does that make you feel, Mr. President?
As president of the Navajo Nation, one of the most important things that I live by every single day is protecting the Treaty of 1868 and its best interests of the people and the communities. I know that Navajo people are very diverse. We're all over the country, and there's 200,000 of us that live on the reservation. But when you hear that it's only when it's convenient, it's a little frustrating. Tribal sovereignty shouldn't be convenient. It should be something that we live by. There's laws, there's ways of working with tribes, and as mentioned earlier in my testimony, that working together, coming up with a collective solution, and making sure that we don't leave people behind. And I feel like that's my number one important role as president, and I really, truly believe that the people that elected me this past year was people that are very poor, people in tough conditions, single mothers, my grandparents that are raising their grandkids, and people without jobs, people that don't even have enough money to go to the laundromat. Yeah. And I think about that every single day. So it's just, when I hear that, it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow because it's a long road to get where we want to get. So
yeah, Ms. Jesus, would you agree? Does it bother you to hear members in this chamber and other members talk about the sovereignty of the Navajo Nation only when it's convenient, but then they're more than happy to boss you all around and tell you how you can use your natural resources? You know, I can tell you guys something. Many of the individuals on this panel don't share the same political affiliation that I do. I'm a Republican, yet I represent many people, many of the Native people that identify as Democrats. But I can tell you one thing we have in common. I don't like to see this corrupt, often corrupt, overreaching, overbearing, irresponsible government tell any of my constituents or any of the American people what they can and cannot do, especially when it goes against their council, their presidency, the people that they elected to represent them. And that's something that I want, even to Mr. Atencio. I heard, Mr. Atencio, do you believe in the sovereignty of the Navajo Nation?
Mr. Crane, as a local elected official, I do.
Okay, thank you, sir. So here's the thing, Mr. Atencio, and I respect your opinion. I can tell that you researched, you know what you have a solid opinion. But this is my counsel to everybody in here. This swings both ways. Okay, if you allow this government to come in and tell you what you can do with the buffer zone around Chaco Canyon, then don't complain when they come in and tell you something else. Sovereign, it's either you're sovereign or you're not. You guys have a president, you guys have an elected council. If the people that elected these individuals, these elected officials wanted a buffer zone, these guys would they would have a buffer zone, okay? And that's not even to mention the $200 million that it's gonna cost citizens and tribal members on the Navajo Nation. That's a lot of money. I remember going to meet President Nygren in my home state, and I remember driving around the reservation. And I noticed there was a lot of poverty there. So that $200 on the Navajo Nation, that's going to mean a lot more than it would in Prescott or Sedona or Flagstaff, other areas that I represent. And here's the thing. I want to say this as well. I've noticed this since I've been representing the Navajo people. It's not just with this Chaco Canyon buffer zone, Ms. Culver. Multiple times we have reached out to the Department of Interior to ask about gravel pits. This is a big issue for the Navajo Nation. They want to be able to use their own gravel pits so that they can repair their own roads. Guess how many responses we've got from the Department of Interior, Ms. Culver? 0. So they don't listen to me. You guys clearly aren't listening to the president and the council of the Navajo Nation. Who exactly are you listening to, Ms. Culver? Yeah, go ahead.
We are listening to the public. We are consulting with tribes, and we are engaging in extensive outreach and engagement with all of the many Americans for whom we steward the public lands.
Well, that's hard to believe when you can't even respond to their congressional representative. Thank you. I yield back.